Hi everyone, I'm going to make a presentation on the blockchain basics and its application in the real estate industry. So let me share my screen where I have created a presentation for blockchain basics and its real estate application use case. In the recent past, Bitcoin, blockchain, and all these cryptocurrencies have gained a lot of popularity in both ways, in terms of application of the blockchain in different industry, as well as in terms of the cryptocurrencies that is getting a lot of economic gain, as well as it's being popular for using or disrupting the financial industry or disrupting the fiat currency that we have in the world, which is going on so far. I'm not going to focus more on the cryptocurrency, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cover the basics of the cryptocurrency. So I'm going to start over again. As I said, blockchain in the recent past has gathered a lot of attention. The video presentation is more towards using the concept or showcasing the concept of the crypto hashing function and all those stuff. Let me move to the first slide that I have over here. Uh, Blockchain simply put. What exactly are we talking about over here is what exactly is the blockchain and what it does. What is the structure of the blockchain? So a blockchain is a simple data structure, which is an order blank, a linked list of the blocks of transactions. Each block also references a previous block known as the parent block through the previous block hash filled in the block header. In other words, I would say that each block contains the hash of its parent inside its own header, and the sequence of hashes linking each block to its parent creates a chain going back all the way to the first block ever created, which was known as the Genesis block. Um, and each block within the blockchain is identified by a hash, cryptographic hash, which is generated using SHA-256 cryptographic hash algorithm on the head of the block. Now, there are few these terminology or the jargons that I'm using over here is mainly towards the cryptographic hashing, and you must be wondering what I'm talking about in these about these hashing functions. I'll cover these parts in the next slide, but just to give a brief overview of what a blockchain is, blockchain is a block of data structure which has, if you look at the complete block, it has a version number, it has a previous block hash, and I'll come back to hash. It has a Merkle root, which is a hash of the root of the block's transaction, and what is the timestamp of the data structure or the blockchain structure that was created, was the difficulty target and nonce. I'm not going to go to the basics or the details of these because it itself is a very huge chapter or a topic by itself, but I'm trying to focus more on the very basic of what the hashing functionalities are and how the blockchain is very secure in terms of making a transaction very unique, and there is no redundancy. So I'm going to the next slide. The next slide is basically what are the principles behind the blockchain. There are three basic principles that we have behind the blockchain is the hashing functions, security property. Now the security properties are for any cryptographic protocol is one is collision free, second is hiding, and third is puzzle friendly. Now once again we are wondering what exactly is the hashing property. Now hashing property, as I said earlier, which was SHA-256, it is hashing of a number, let's say a hexadecimal number into a 256 bit hexadecimal hash function. If I put it in the simple words, the collision-free functionality or the collision-free property of hashing functions is that nobody can find x and y such that if x is not equal to y and h of x is equal to h of y. Now what that means is that you have an x and y that are separate, and yet when you hash them, they hash the same value. Can it happen? Now one thing is to notice that I said nobody can find that in a situation like this that it could happen or it could not happen, and the reason for that is if you to do a hashing of a number to 2 to the to let's say 256 SHA, that's an astronomically huge number that could not be deciphered by any number of computers that is made available in the world so far. So even if it's feasible, I mean it's possible, it's definitely not feasible for any human computers or humanly created computers to do to basically make sure that if you have created a hashing that will have the same value of x and y. So that is the hashing property. What I mean to say by hashing property is that if x and y, there are two numbers x and y, and the hashing of that has been done, there could not be a number which will be the same if you hash both the numbers x and y, and hx will not be equal to y. So that's a algorithm or the property that is being used so far as the collision free is concerned. There are other properties for the hash function as well, which is hiding. What it basically does is, if R is chosen from a probability distribution that has high min entropy, that basically says that given HR of x, it is infeasible to find x. So what it is basically saying in the layman language is, if you are doing a hashing of a number, basically concatenating a number of R with x, it is basically very difficult or infeasible to find back where was it created from. The third is puzzle friendly. Once again, it is interrelated with the hiding, that even if you are trying to create or randomly trying to find out what was the number that was the hashing that was created out of the number, let's say x or y, it's humanly impossible to do that with any algorithm, because the numbers that we have to try is astronomical high, in the order of 2 to power 130, which once again I said is going to be very, very difficult. So these are the basic function that we use for basically hashing function, which is being used to create the private key and the public key, so that any number of transactions that has been created in the Genesis block for the blockchain, it cannot be deciphered. So there is only one and one unique number which is available, and it cannot be retraced back. Now, the other application of the blockchain, or I can say that what are the different properties of the blockchain, is mining and consensus. Now, anyone would say, what exactly is mining and consensus, and how does the blockchain ecosystem works, right? So what exactly happens is, let's say there's an ecosystem of 4 or 5 nodes. Basically, there are different nodes where there are people who are trying to solve these puzzles in order to make sure that whatever the transaction that has been made is has been solved, so that the ledger, the blockchain ledger, has been created for that, and that's solved, and that retains in the blockchain ecosystem forever. The decentralized peer-to-peer network for the mining, what it does is basically, so far as the mining is concerned, every node has all the transactions available for all. Let me take my words back. All the nodes in the blockchain ecosystem has all the transactions available. So when a Genesis block has been created, the peer-to-peer network sends the information to all the nodes, and they try to solve the puzzle. So that's why it is called a consensus hyperledger, because no one person has a control on everything. Everyone has control on everything, and everyone has information about everything. Even though everyone has information, it's very secure, because nobody can, if one person does not have a information about, tries to fork, or tries to provide wrong information, or try to um, manipulate the data, other nodes will still have the information. So mining, the people who are miners are basically those who take care of um, these transactions. Now the profit that they have in order to do this mining is because when a transaction happens, the first person who does the transaction gets a cut of the transaction, or the payment, or any kind of transaction that happens, he gets a part of it. Now decentralized consensus, as I said, is the node has all the information. Now traditional payment system used to depend on the central authority, but the blockchain is not created by a central authority. It is assembled independently by every node in the network. Uh, the one of the I mean there are various application of blockchain that has been worked on so far. There are many POCs that has been created. We can take the example of financial industry. We can take the example of trades, front office, back office, and middle office. There are many places where people, the industries are trying to find how blockchain could be leveraged so that um, we can make a robust system. One more industry that I have written my paper on is the real estate industry use case, which is a very compelling use case where the application of blockchain could be used very fluently in terms of getting the transaction done, as well as in terms of doing any kind of uh, real estate uh, real estate transactions. And the figure here shows that the blockchain could be implemented when in different stages of the blockchain. The first stage is here where once the buyer and seller are ready to do the contract, Genesis block could be created and sales contract could be expected uh, and accepted as well. There is a property in blockchain which is called multi-sig. Now, what multi-sig does is when a transaction occurs or a Genesis block occurs, the multi-sig will make sure that all the parties involved when the Genesis block has been created, until unless they do not sign, that transaction cannot happen. And this is very much required in the real estate industries because uh, the signature is needed from the buyer as well as the seller. So it is one of the important features that could be used in the real estate industry where the transaction could be faster, because in the real estate industry there are so many transactions that happens which is across the board and takes a lot of time. So it is a very important and compelling use case that could be used for real estate industry. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritties of this paper. You can you can log into LinkedIn and go to my profile Dheeraj Sinha, and you can Google me on application of blockchain in the real estate industry. And I have a paper on it's on my LinkedIn. You can go through that paper and give me your comments. I'll end up this presentation right now, and then thank you so much for listening to this.